and all of these concepts that we have studied about osmosis and osmotic pressure, right? No doubts in that? If there is any doubt, please ask me. No doubts?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today, I'll start with, I already have defined to you what do we mean by water potential, correct? You all know what is water potential by now?
Yes,
The
sir.
chemical potential of water I have defined, and I told you that from plants physiology perspective, we use the term water potential, right? We don't use chemical potential of water because that makes more sense in a chemical reaction in a beaker, correct? Okay. So today about water potential, what I'm going to tell you is, so water potential, when we talk about it, you will be, sometimes you get an entrance in some numericals based on it. So water potential is referred by this. This is the symbol. Okay, this is how we represent water potential. So the potential of water. This is called psi or phi something, but this is this is the symbol. Okay. Now water potential. To understand water potential, we also have to understand two more things. One of which is, remember I told you that the potential of water is affected directly by only one thing, which is the solute present in it, right? If we increase the number of solute, the tonicity increases, correct? Just above,
Yes.
we studied it. Yes. So there is something called solute potential as well, okay, which is represented as S. So this is solute potential. And the another thing, what was the other factor that was affecting the water, the movement of water during osmosis? Or how were we able to calculate the osmotic pressure for that matter? Remember osmotic pressure? Yes, Mariam.
Pressure gradient.
So pressure, you said. Yes, right. So we had to apply opposite pressure on the opposite side, like opposite to the flow of osmosis, which can stop the osmosis, correct? So the other thing that can affect water potential is pressure potential. Like what is the pressure in that vessel or in that system, which is called P, psi P. Now there is a formula that denotes the relationship between all these three, and which is very simple. Water potential is always understood or calculated. Rehab is here. Let's enter rehab by saying, by adding solute potential to your pressure potential. So psi W is equal to psi S plus psi P. Is it clear? This is the relationship. Water potential is equal to solute potential plus pressure potential. Okay. Now let's try to understand this formula. Water potential, you all know. Let's talk about solute potential. So write down what is a solute potential basically. So when we dissolve solute in any, let's say there is pure water, and that is the standard potential. Okay. And whenever we add a solute to the water, what happens to the potential of water? Whenever we add any solute to anything, what happens?
It
Now,
decreases.
yes, why it decreases, Maria? Why do you think it decreases?
Because the solute increases.
Yes, so that was one way I asked you to remember it. When solute increases, solute potential increases, water potential decreases, correct? But why it happens? Because whenever solute dissolves, where are solutes dissolving? Solutes are dissolving in between the water molecules, correct? If something is dissolvable or soluble in water, where does it go? It goes and occupies the space in between the water molecules, remember? That's why
Yes,
the
sir.
volume does not increase when you, so when you dissolve 1 teaspoon of sugar in a glass, does the volume of water increases? No, right? Because the sugar gets dissolved in the water in between the water molecules, correct? Which means that now there are fewer water molecules, free water molecules, or fewer or less free energy of the water molecules available, correct? Because some of those spaces are occupied by the solute. Is it clear? So write it down. When solute is dissolved in pure water, when solute is dissolved in pure water, the free energy, or in bracket you can write free water molecules. The free energy or free water molecules of water, free water molecules decreases. So technically, if we see, whenever there is any solution, it will always have a lower potential than pure water. Is it correct? All the solutions will always have lower potential than the pure water, correct? Or the potential of water in that solution will be lower than the pure water, correct? So you can write down all solutions always have a lower water potential than pure water. Okay, that makes sense. Which also means that what is the magnitude of this solute potential then? So whenever we bring in this factor, the water potential decreases. So it's always reducing, right? It's always negative, correct? So you can write down solute potential is always negative in nature or in magnitude. So this is always negative. Right? Let's say for pure water, the water potential is 1, let's say. Okay. And whenever we are adding solute into it, we are adding something, right? But if we are adding something positive, then it should increase, correct? If I do 1 plus 0.2, it will become 1.2, correct? And it will increase. But if this entity that I'm adding is always negative, then what will become?
Negative.
Yes, 0.8, correct? So this is your solute potential. If this is the water potential of pure water, then this has to be solute potential because it's always negative and always bringing it lower. Therefore, all the solutions have a lower water potential than pure water. Now that's easy to understand. Another point is the pressure. Let's talk about the pressure potential. So the solute potential is clear, everyone? No doubt in this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's start the water potential. Now, what did we study about pressure when I told you that what happens when we apply pressure to pure water or to any solution? Like in the case of osmosis, we were applying pressure, and what was happening because of that? Whenever we apply pressure, yes, sorry.
Nothing, sir.
So what happens when we apply pressure on any solution? Its movement increases across the plasma membrane, correct? If we are applying opposite, so it's simple. There is a balloon, okay? Let's understand it this way. There is a balloon and you make a pinhole in the balloon, right? A hole which will not make it burst, let's say. So it's deflated and you make a hole, then you fill water. So that water will start leaking from that pinhole, correct? Correct?
Yes, sir.
And what happens if you apply pressure to that balloon? The movement of water increases, right? Because of pressure.
Yes, sir.
Even if there is solute present in the water, still that thing will happen. And the water will start moving out and the solute concentration will keep increasing, which means basically what it is doing is any pressure above the atmospheric pressure is causing the water potential to increase or the water movement to increase, which means there is more free energy in the water now. Do you understand this? To react or to collide, the molecules to collide and form any kind of a reaction. So basically it's the chemical potential of water, but here we are talking about just the working potential or the moving potential. So write down any pressure applied above the atmospheric pressure. So the atmospheric pressure is 1 atm, we call it 1 atmospheric pressure. That's the normal atmospheric pressure that we have. So any pressure applied above atmospheric pressure to a pure water or a solution, to a pure water or a solution leads to increase in the water potential. Okay, so even for a pure water, there is one way to increase the potential of that pure water also. You keep that pure water under high pressure. Is it clear, everyone? So what is one way? So if it is asked that if the solute concentration is fixed or if there is no solute present in the water, which means it's a pure water, which of the following factor can still lead to an increase in the water potential? So the answer is pressure. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So do not believe that a pure water has the highest potential. It has a standard potential because water potential also depends on the pressure potential, and pressure can always be played with. You can always tweak pressure. So at high pressures, even the pure water has higher water potential than normal atmospheric pressure. Okay, and a pure water can also have low water potential than a solution if these two are kept at different pressures. Is it clear? These are some high order thinking skills. So if I keep a water at a negative pressure, and I'll explain you how we can create negative pressures. So if I put water on negative pressure and a solution at positive pressure, then basically the potential of a pure water is also going to be lower than the solution, correct?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So that's why when we define water potential, we always have to say that all the solutions have a lower water potential than pure water at 1 atmospheric pressure. So that defining that 1 atmospheric pressure is very important. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Now
Yes,
about
sir.
yes, very good. Now about pressure potential, most of the times the pressure potential is positive. Okay, why I'm saying most of the times, because we are going to study plant system, and to your like it will be interesting for you to know that plants can actually create a negative pressure in their vascular system, like in the xylem and the phloem. So most of the time the pressure potential is mostly positive. Okay, in chemistry and in normal where we find potential of water to be significance, but you have to write that except in xylem and phloem. In xylem and phloem, there is a negative negative pressure potential. So write down the pressure potential component is mostly positive But in plants, there is a negative pressure potential generated. But in plants, there's a negative pressure potential generated in the xylem. Mostly in the xylem, okay? In phloem also, but don't use the term phloem. Okay, xylem. Now, all of this is clear.
Yes.
Will you remember? This is also clear.
Yes, sir.
Very good. So now let's go to one. Before going to mass flow hypothesis, there's one more thing. How many of you know of this term called imbibition? Imbibition. So we studied diffusion, then we studied facilitated diffusion, then we studied osmosis, which is a special type of diffusion just for water where the solvent moves. The fourth thing is imbibition. Imbibition is also a diffusion. It's again a special case of diffusion. Anyone knows about imbibition?
So I guess I know, but I'm not sure whether it's correct
No,
or
guess.
not.
See, the worst.
Can I? So it's the it's the absorption of one substance by another. Like in what we are saying. When it's like it's the type of a special diffusion, right? Which takes place when
Yeah. So
water
what is
is
diffusing?
absorbed.
You're right. What is diffusing? It is a special case of diffusion, but what is diffusing in this case also? Water, right? And you are correct.
Yeah.
What did you say after that? What
Afterwards.
happens in so what happens in imbibition?
Like it's the special type of diffusion that takes place when the water is absorbed by.
Yes, right. By what?
Yeah. By solids.
Exactly, perfect. You know it.
It's correct. Thank
Yes,
you.
it's correct. So imbibition is a special. So we were till now, whenever we were studying about diffusion, see the concept is same. There has to be a gradient across which molecules will move without utilizing energy. Correct? That's all. Diffusion, anything can diffuse. Okay. Osmosis, only water's movement through a semi-permeable membrane without utilizing energy was osmosis, a special kind of diffusion of the solvent and not the solute. Imbibition is where the concept of solvent and solute is not there, but still it's a special kind of diffusion or movement of water into solids. So there are certain solids which absorb water the moment they come in contact with water. Right? Can you name any of that, any such solid? Any solid which absorbs? Exactly, perfect. Seeds, because we are talking about plants, that's why the first thing is seeds. Seeds absorb water. How many of you have done this experiment of germination in your lower classes? We were used to given homeworks in your summer holidays. Make a germination thing, click pictures and make a collage or a timeline, right?
So we didn't got any schoolwork, but I'm still
You did it
doing
by
it.
yourself.
Yeah.
Ah,
I'm still
everyone does it. How many of you like sprouts, eating sprouts?
I don't like, but I like to make
pea,
it.
chickpeas or gram. So what do we do when we make sprouts? We just keep them in water, soak them in water overnight, right? And the next day we see that some tiny
we will
white.
cover when this starts to grow. We will cover it in a nice cotton cloth, right?
Yes. And why do we cover it? Because they're no longer required to be submerged in water, but they need moisture around. So do you cover it with a wet cloth or cotton or something like that to keep it hydrated? But the concept of imbibition happened the night you soaked it. Gram seeds, which you bring from the market, are very solid. If you just hit it on a glass, there'll be a sound like tuck made because they are solid. They are dehydrated and solidified. But after soaking overnight, they become soft. You can just crush it with your teeth, correct? You can chew and eat it. So that softness comes because they imbibed a lot of water overnight. So that's a solid tissue which can imbibe lots of water. So that is called imbibition. Okay. So write down, imbibition is a special case of diffusion of water. Imbibition is a special case of diffusion of water when it is absorbed by water, when it is absorbed by solids or colloids. You know what is colloids? Colloidal solution. You all must have studied colloidal solution in class 10th. Suspension, colloidal solution, sedimentation, homogeneous mixture. You have not studied these? If you dissolve sugar
Yes,
in
sir,
water,
we
it's a
have
homogeneous.
studied.
Yes, if you put sugar or salt in water, there's a homogeneous solution. But if you put sand in water, there is a sedimentation. It does not dissolve. But there are certain things which are colloids, which keep suspended. They stay suspended in water. They do not dissolve, but they also do not sediment. Remember colloids, colloidal solution? No. Okay, go back and revise it. So when water is absorbed by either solids or by colloids, sorry, what have you written? Anyone? Please, can you just repeat what I asked you to write?
A special case of diffusion of water when it is absorbed by solids or colloids.
Solids, colloids, leading to increase in its volume. Leading to increase in its volume. It means solids volume. So the gram P, which imbibes water, next day you see that sometimes our mothers also soak lentils and rajma overnight to cook them the next day, right? So if you see, the volume of that rajma increases when soaked overnight. So there has to be an increase in volume. In examples, you can write seed. Seed imbibes water. Also dry wood. So when people makes boats of wood, they always make a polish. They make, so earlier it was used to be oil or resin or grease that they used to, so there has to be a hydrophobic coating over the wood, correct? Because wood actually floats, but after some time it starts imbibing a lot of water, and like it the volume increases, right?
Yes.
And then the wood can sink easily or can get damaged easily, correct? So to keep it floating, to not allow water to get in and get imbibed, we put a hydrophobic coating over it, so they always polish their boats, the base of the boat. If anyone of you has ever seen a boat, a normal, a small boat which they use in the rivers.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so dry wood is one example. So swelling of the wood is a very good technique. In early days, people realized that when wood imbibes water and when it swells, that pressure is enormous, so enormous that you can use that pressure to actually break mountains and boulders. So what they used to do, what early medieval people used to do is, suppose you want to break a big rock for something. It's a very big rock and it's in the middle of the way, and you didn't have tools, right? Like tools or like modern equipments. So what you will do is, you will make small crack, like any hole or crack with the things you have, or if that stone or that boulder has any natural crack, you carve a wood, a chip, and put it inside the crack, which exactly fits the crack. Do you understand? And then leave
Yes,
it.
sir.
Then what will happen? Rains will come, monsoon season will come, and it will rain. Or if you have water, keep soaking that wood with water every day. After some time, till some time, the wood will not do anything, but after some time, when it will start imbibing water, because of that imbibition, the volume of the wood will start to increase, correct? Now there's no space, So it will start creating pressure against the boulders. And if you have such multiple wood slats put inside the slits, then you can actually make the boulder split. That is the power of imbibition. Okay. So
Yes, sir.
it's actually a very strong pressure which can be created through water, diffusion of water in solid substances. Okay. What I also wanted to tell you is okay, I forgot what I was trying to say. Okay, write down. Yes, I was saying, and why this pressure is important, because all the seeds, when we start about, so in plant germination, so you all have had gram. So if you open a gram seed, it's like this, right? When it's open from the middle, there are two cotyledons that open like this, correct? And there is the food here, endosperm, correct? The starch, the
Yes,
edible
sir.
part. But that leaf, that seed actually has a covering. So the grams that we get, like the roasted grams that we have, you remember that there is a seed on the top, covering at the top, which we remove and don't eat it, right? And it's a very strong covering when the seed is raw. So that strong covering, and we know that when seeds start germinating, a small radical comes out, right? Which later on becomes the root, the radical and plumule. So if this is the seed of the gram, remember when it starts sprouting, there is something white which comes out, and it keeps increasing into the soil, and then there are leaves that comes out from this part, right? This is how it germinates, correct? Inside the
Yes,
soil.
sir.
Now for this radical and this plumule, so this part is called plumule, and this part is called radical. Radical always goes on to form the roots, and the plumule goes on to form the shoots. And by that time, because these leaves are not ready to do photosynthesis, for all these structures to grow, all the energy comes from this seed, the that's called the endosperm part, what we eat. Okay, so I must be having a peanut here. Let me show you. Thanks to my grandmother. Okay, so this is one peanut. Okay, so there's first covering which I can remove because it's roasted easily, is this covering that's removed, and now the peanut looks like this. Can you all see the peanut? Where is the camera? Here. It can actually be split in two parts very easily. There is a line from which we can split it into two parts, correct? Right? Now this part, these are called cotyledons of the seed, and they have all the energy that is required by the growing plant till the plant becomes mature and has leaves and also has chlorophyll in the leaves and can start doing photosynthesis. Okay, now this covering over the top of this seed is very hard, and to break this force of imbibition is very important. So when you put seed in the ground and you always water the seed, the water starts getting inside the seed and creates a pressure against this covering, and this covering breaks, and that's where the seed starts getting metabolically active and starts forming the radical and plumule. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay, so write down the pressure created due to imbibition. The pressure created due to imbibition. Someone is asking something. The pressure created due to imbibition is very important for the seedling to emerge out of the seed, for the seedling to emerge out of the germinating seed. Okay. Now, why we call it diffusion? Because that is also a clear case of movement through gradient. When we, so whether it's a seed or a wood, water always moves where it was more to the region where the concentration was less. So wood is dry, seed is dry, outside environment is wet or humid. So there is lots of water outside or moist. So that enters the wood and makes it grow in volume. And that enters in seed and makes the coating, the covering of the seed break and the seedling to come out. Is it clear? So since the movement of water is happening across a concentration gradient without utilizing any energy, it is again a case of diffusion. Clear?
Yes, sir.
But unlike other cases, here it creates a lot of positive pressure. That is called the pressure due to imbibition, or called the turgor pressure. When cells become turgid, right, there is a pressure. But remember, in case of plant cell, simple osmosis could not break a cell because it was enough to hold the cell intact, correct? But
Yes, sir.
due to imbibition, the solid substances can actually break apart. Okay, now let's come to the mass flow hypothesis. And before that, let's come to transpiration. So anyone knows what is transpiration? I'm taking transpiration first. I think I asked you to read transpiration. Evaporation, and then there's something called transpiration. Yes, Mariam.
Evaporation of water from the surface of the leaves through stomata.
Evaporation of water from the surface of the leaf. Okay.
Through stomata, and this creates a suction pull, which is known as transpiration pull. Pull.
Okay. And why do you think it creates a suction pressure? When water evaporates from our body, from the surface of our skin, does it create any suction pressure? What is different that it creates a suction pull in plants but not in humans? So we also sweat profusely. We sweat during the summers, and if the temperature is very hot, we sweat a lot, and it also keeps evaporating to cool down the surface temperature. But is there a suction pull created? No, right?
No.
Yes, no for humans or animals, but how does it get created for plants is the point. Because let's first, to understand transpiration, let's understand stomata. So you used the word stomata. What is stomata, Mario?
Pore-like structures on the surface of the leaves.
Okay, now this is a leaf. Okay, sorry. So this is the part which is facing the top, and then there is a, if I see from here, this is the bottom part and this is the top part. Okay. Now, on which surface do you think stomata is present the most? Figure it out. Okay, that is one assignment question, but that was not important. What's important here is that, yes, someone wrote bottom. Yes, Abhinav, correct. And why is that, Abhinav? Since you have given the answer also, can you speak why? Oh, you have to type for that, no? Okay, keep typing. If you are typing, type Y. But let's say on the surface of the leaves, there are some small openings, like Mariam was saying, and they are called stomata. Now, so for stomata, there are, it's a very simple thing. So there are guard cells, 2 guard cells, which are, yes, I wrote an answer, I believe, because the upper is utilized for chlorophyll. Yes, right. So we'll come to it later. But you are it's not utilized for chlorophyll, but it's like modified to make more of like chlorophyll containing cells. So these guard cells here in a normal stomata are like shaped like a kidney bean or kidneys. Okay, these are called guard cells. In these guard cells, there are array of myofibrils or myofibrils, sorry, microfibrils. So these are microfibrils. The name says that it's small, micro, and they are fiber-like, and they actually control the shape of the stomata of these guard cells. So these two are the guard cells because they are guarding the opening of the stomata. And when they squeeze and this part becomes narrow, this opening is created, which is called stomatal aperture. Aperture is just like any opening. We have apertures in our cameras, in the eye, which is called pupil. Okay, and there are certain mesenchymal cells around, but the point is this myofibril network can actually control when the plants want the stomata to open, and then when it wanted to close. Now, as Mariam said, because of transpiration, it is the evaporation from the surface of the water. So there is one correction, Mariam, not necessarily from the surface, but from this stomatal aperture. Is it clear?
Yes,
right?
sir.
So if you drip, so we all water our plants, right? So there is some water on the surface of the leaf when we water the plants. That water also gets evaporated, correct? But that will not be called as transpiration. Okay, make sense?
Yes, sir.
Only this kind of evaporation which happens from this aperture. So there will be water, and this opening actually leads to a network of this vasculature, xylem, that brings water towards the leaf. So when water evaporates from here, there is an extensive network behind, and the moment water evaporates, the stomata closes. Okay, and when the stomata closes, it's like a vacuum that gets created between the stomata and the next water molecule. So there is nothing basically. And when there is nothing, what happens? Suction, correct? If you create a vacuum, then suction will happen, correct?
Yes, sir.
This is the whole concept of, those things that stick on the wall, those rubber like flaps. Those kids play with the bow and arrow, which has a rubber like flap at the top. So it basically creates a suction, removes the air out, so there is a vacuum created. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
Something like this is at the top, and when you throw it at the wall, so this part removes all the air out, and when all the air goes out, it sticks to the wall, correct? Because there is a vacuum created, a suction pressure created. So that happens at the stomatal aperture. Because of that, there's a vacuum created, and this leads to a pressure which pulls the water up towards the stomata. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so write down transpiration. Transpiration is the loss of water through evaporation, the loss of water through evaporation by the plants that occurs through the stomatal aperture, So stomata is a plural in itself, You know what is the singular of stomata? Stomata means plural. A lot of stomata together are called stomata. There is no word called stomatas. So what is the single of stomata? Anyone knows?
Stoma.
Yes, stoma. Good. Stoma is the singular. So write down, this is the definition, and what happens is, the stomata also plays major role. The stomata also plays major role in exchange of gases. So when it is opening, apart from evaporation of water, what's happening is it's also causing. So stomata is, if you compare it technically, it's like that opening of our nostrils through which air can go in and out, but also the opening of our sweat pores through which water comes out and evaporates. So that structure serves both the purposes. When evaporation is happening, when it's opening up, certain exchange of gases also takes place, because CO2 is already present in leaves in large amount. Why is CO2 already present in leaves in large amount? Because every tissue, every cell of the leaf is also respiring. Apart from doing photosynthesis, they are also respiring, correct? Right, Abhinav, respiration. So it's not like plants always take in CO2 and give out O2. They take in CO2. Let's write here. There are two processes. One is called photosynthesis, which is required to make the food of the plant. In the presence of light, they synthesize or make their own food. The next is called respiration, which is a characteristic property of life, correct? Remember I told you this, metabolism. Every living cell has to respire, where they break down starch or glucose or source of energy to make oxygen and CO2, right, as a byproduct.
Yes, sir.
So in the process of respiration, O2 is utilized. O2 is utilized and CO2 is released as a byproduct. CO2 is released as a byproduct. This humans also do. We are also doing it all the time. What we cannot do is photosynthesis, because for doing this we need chlorophyll that can trap the sun, the photic energy, the light energy, and can convert it into a chemical energy so that it can be now used to do a chemical reaction. In this, we use CO2, we bring in CO2 because we already have water with which we will merge CO2, and we have to split this water into hydrogen and oxygen. So if you balance this reaction, there will be multiple water molecules that will split into hydrogen and oxygen, and this oxygen is released because it's not required as a byproduct. Okay, and this hydrogen is reacted with CO2 to form starch. Make sense? You understand, everyone? Is it clear? So plants do this. Plants can take in CO2 and utilize this CO2 in the process of photosynthesis, where this CO2 is reacted with hydrogen or is reduced with hydrogen to make starch, and this O2, which is a byproduct of the split of water molecule, is released. And this starch is what is present in their fruit. So they store this in the fruit. So when we eat fruit, we are eating this, the food that they made for themselves. But the same food which is made here actually will now be utilized or broken down in the presence of oxygen. The opposite reaction. Do you understand? respiration is opposite of photosynthesis, correct? Are you appreciating or not? Say yes or no, people.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this same food will now be broken down in the presence of oxygen to give lots of energy, and CO2 will be produced again, which will be released back. We are doing it all the time. Plants are primary producers, so they make food, but it's not like they do not need food for themselves. They also need food for themselves as well. So they are respiring and breaking down the food also, metabolically breaking down the food also. So plants also release out CO2 just like us. But why we say that plants give oxygen then? Because the rate by which they are doing respiration is always lower in the daytime to the rate of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is happening multiple folds more than respiration in plants during the daytime, because during the daytime there is lots and lots of sunlight energy, and chlorophyll is always active. The moment sunlight energy will fall on chlorophyll, it will start trapping it and converting into chemical energy and doing this synthesis. Is it clear? During the night time, the photosynthesis decreases a lot because there is no sunlight available. Some amount of energy which is already present in the leaf, which was converted by chlorophyll during the daytime, can still be used to do some photosynthesis, but overall the rate is very, very less. But respiration keeps on happening throughout the day. Whether it's a daytime or nighttime, plants need energy to survive. Their cells need energy to repair, grow, multiply, divide, wear and tear, everything. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
So photosynthesis rates fluctuates. It's very high during the day and very low during the night. But respiration is overall same. You understand? Because that's how the metabolic activity works. Okay, so for the what I was saying, so because CO2 is also present inside the cell, which is a byproduct of respiration, it has to come out, and also oxygen has to go in to do respiration. And if a cell is, if the nearby region is doing photosynthesis, then the opposite is also required. They need to take in CO2 again, and they need to release O2 out. So the same stomata is doing both the things. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So write down stomata. Normally, like in normal conditions, normally stomata is open during the day. Normally stomata is open during the day and closed during the night. And how do they open and close? Write down this opening and closing is regulated by the turgidity. Remember turgor pressure? I told you about turgor pressure or turgidity. The turgidity of the guard cells. So if they are more turgid, it will close, right? Because if they are turgid, they will swollen and it will close. If they are flaccid, then there'll be an opening in the center, right? So
Yes,
if
sir.
pressure starts building from inside, then both these walls will be forced shut against each other. So high pressure, turgid. But if they are flaccid, they will again retract back and open. Okay. So turgidity of the guard cells. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, as I was asking, and Abhinav answered that the lower part of the leaf, which we also call the dorsal, where is the dorsal mid vein is. So it's called the dorsiventral part of the leaf. So if you see a leaf, anyone has observed a leaf? I don't have a leaf here right now, but go and see a leaf of any tree.
Yes, sir.
So in the leaf, you will see that one part, one side is always very more shinier, and the veins are just visible but not protruding out. But on the opposite side, so the part of the leaf which is facing, I say normally, which you see, it's very smooth, like a mango leaf or any leaf you see. But if you turn the leaf, you will see that the dorsal part has very prominent mid vein and very prominent other veins, correct? Mid rib will be there and other ribs will be there, and that part will, if you touch it, it will not be as smooth as the other part, other side. So it mostly, it's at the, it's facing the ground, and that part has more stomata. So, and why? So write down the lower surface or the dorsiventral surface of the leaf. Dorsiventral it is, right? If I'm not wrong. Yes, dorsiventral. The lower part or the dorsiventral surface of leaf has higher number of stomatal openings. Okay. You know, there is something which the plant shows, a movement which is called twisting of the leaves. So the side of the leaf which is facing the sun during the day, when the night comes, it actually turns. The leaf twists and turns. Anyone knows about it? During the night, if you see the trees, they look like if they're very sad. You know, all the leaves are facing down. As if.
Yes, I have noticed it when
You have noticed it?
I was
So those
living in
who,
Devanda, yeah.
yes, right. And that actually is a very active behavior shown by plants, which tells that plants can actually sense not only the day and the nights, but also the temperatures and also the fluctuation in the intensity of light. So when during the day, they try to twist and bring in the side where more of chlorophyll is present, which is the shinier part, which Abhinav was also saying. I think this is what he's writing also. Okay, just 1 second. So the shinier part or the ventral side basically has more of chlorophyll, which Abhinav was saying. So it faces the chlorophyll towards the sun during the day, but during the night, it actually turns and twists that part away from the sky. And it's a very active behavior shown by a lot of plants, higher plants around you. That's why plants look like if they're sad or if they're very tired or if they went to a sleeping mode and all their leaves are not very erect and fresh. They're like slightly down, right? Aisha, you have
Yes,
observed it.
yeah.
Very good. Yes, good. Now, write down one more important thing.
So,
Yes, yes,
can
Aisha.
I ask I don't know, like when I went at that time I came to know, I don't know the real name, but there people are calling to that flower, this veggie or something like that. Like at night, it will not bloom. There is a plant like flower like that.
Yes, yes. There are many flowers actually. So there are some flowers which only bloom at night.
Why is it like
There's
that?
one. So there's one flower which is called Raat Ki Rani.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm talking about that one.
So it blooms during the night, and it's very beautiful white flower, and it blooms during the night. And during the night, if you go out and you have those plants around, you will feel that the air is
Like
full of
its
scent.
fragrance is also like from far
Yes,
people can understand.
yes, and it's during the night. During the day, when the morning comes, it actually closes back, and throughout the day it stays closed.
Why is it like that? Can you explain?
So there are many reasons. So opening and closing of flower, why the flower opens? To pollinate, right? To attract pollinators.
Yeah.
Correct. So, and you will also see that biology has reason for everything. If a flower is opening during the night, Does it have to be colorful?
No.
No. So no flower that opens during the night is colorful. They are mostly all white. But the flowers that opens during the day are colorful, because in the daytime you need colors to attract insects. But during the night time, if you are attracting pollinators during the night, and it is a very good way to defeat competition. So during the day, there are certain flowers blooming, very bright colors, and pollinators are going on either one of the plant. But during the night, all those plants are not visible. Even if they are open, they are not visible because it's dark. But a white flower, which is not having any kind of a color, which can get dim during the which requires light to be visible, opens, and just on the basis of fragrance can attract pollinators. Correct. So that's why flowers that open during the night have higher or stronger scent of smell than the flowers that open during the day. So it's all biological. The reason could be to attract the pollinators which are active during the night. So there are many nocturnal insects. Lot of insects only start becoming active during the night. So you will start hearing lots of noise when the evening comes. Crickets and insects like these, cicadas, they start chirping as the night falls, right? If you go to mountains, if you go to mountains on a hill station, when the sun sets, lot of sound from the jungle starts coming, like chick, 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 something like that. They're all insects which are active now because they are nocturnal. So to attract these insects as
So
pollinators,
even where there are lots of plants, we can hear it there also, right?
yes, right, yes, because a lot of insects become active. Okay, so I think it's 7 and you people have to join another class. So let me stop here at transpiration, and in next class I'll be teaching you about two things: cohesion and adhesion. I think this is already covered in your chemistry. These are properties of water, the adhesive property of water and the cohesive property of water. But this is important for bulk mass flow hypothesis as well. And also one thing which is surface tension. This is also covered, I think, in physics, or so just revise it. I will also go through it again. Don't worry. But this is your assignment for today. Okay. Cohesion, adhesion, and surface tension. Right? Will you do it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then see you in the next class, everyone. No doubts? Anyone else? If anyone has doubts, please ask. Otherwise, I end the
No,
class.
sir.
Okay. Then take care.
Bye,
Bye.
sir. Yeah, bye.